Hi, today I'll be showing you some exam-based questions and how to cope with them at ease. In part 1 of this video, we will be looking at fairly simple problems. I recommend spending at most 1 minute for these types of questions. First question, we look at the statements provided and decide which one of them is correct. A tip for this is to go from top to bottom, so that if you are certain the first one is correct, you won't waste time on other answers. In case you are not sure if it is right or wrong, proceed to the next option and use elimination to make your decision. Look for specific keywords. For example, in A we have fixed mass, oxygen, fixed volume, and 298 Kelvin. The first statement is wrong. We can see that oxygen is a gas, so it follows the equation pressure times volume equals moles times R times temperature. Fixed mass means that the number of moles is fixed, since N, or mole numbers, equals actual mass over molar mass. Temperature is set at 298 Kelvin, so it is also fixed, and we have the R constant is a constant, but we do not know the pressure, so volume can still change. Let's highlight the keywords for B: fixed mass, ethanol, fixed volume, and 300 Kelvin. This is the correct statement because ethanol is a liquid, so it has fixed density. We have the equation density equals mass over volume, so if mass is unchanged, volume is also constant. Next up, the keywords for option C will be 40 centimeters cubed of gas, mole particles, and 40 centimeters cubed of liquid. This is the wrong statement. You can move on after the second statement since it is correct. But I want to explain all of the statements to you, so we are going to look at all of them. In the state of matter video, I have mentioned that solid is denser than liquid and liquid is denser than gas. So with the same volume, liquid will contain more particles than gas. The last option D will contain these keywords: liquid particles inside a sealed beaker and stayed put. Stayed put means they do not move out of their current positions. This is a wrong statement. Liquid moves by sliding over each other. That is why they can flow freely, so the particles do not stay in one position all the time. After analyzing every statement, we can see that B is the only right answer. This is the same for every question of this type. Only one answer is correct, and don't waste too much time doubting yourself if you have decided on an answer already. Let's move on to the next question. In which of these substances are the particles close together and are moving slowly past each other? Let's think about the properties of each state. Particles are close to each other, which means it can only be solid or liquid, because gas particles are far away from each other. Then we think about the particles' motions. Solid particles only vibrate in their positions, and liquid particles slide past each other. So the correct answer is liquid. In the four options, milk is the only liquid, bread is a solid, and carbon dioxide and hydrogen are gases. So the correct answer is milk, which is also Doofus' favorite treat. Question 3 gives us a description about something, and we have to figure out what is being discussed. Particles move slowly from an area of high concentration to low concentration. The movement from high concentration to low concentration is the description of diffusion. There are two options that contain the word diffusion in them, but we can pick out the correct answer by looking at our keywords again. Particles move slowly, so this must be in the liquid medium. Gas particles are very further away from each other, so the movement through this medium is not as restricted as in the liquid medium. So the correct answer is diffusion of a substance in liquid. Ooh, we have an extended question here. Don't worry, it's just the name. Extended only means when the things you have learned in books are applied in real life. For example, we have a pot of coffee that was prepared and some coffee is poured into a mug. Seconds later, the living room smelled of coffee. Yum. Which processes have occurred? First off, coffee is a liquid, but then for the smell to spread out of the room, it has to be converted to gas so particles can move through air. The process involving the change from liquid to gas is evaporation. The second process is, of course, diffusion, because if the steam only stays above the coffee mug, the smell cannot be felt across the room. So our correct answer will be evaporation and diffusion. We have another extended question. Complete the sentence. As the temperature of air in a sealed bag, the volume increases. When the volume of air in a sealed bag increases the pressure, we then use the equation for our gas. PV equals nRT. This means if temperature increases, volume also increases. And when volume increases, pressure decreases. So the right answer would be increases and decreases. We have finished part 1. Let's move on to a harder section. Not too hard, but not that easy either. Look at the statements and see which one is correctly describing a solid. First statement says that particles move in a random manner, but this is describing a gas, not a solid. So this statement is wrong. Particles are neatly packed. This is definitely talking about solid. We have one correct statement already. Particles slide on each other. Now, this is not talking about solid, it is describing a liquid. So this is a wrong statement. Number 4 says that particles have vibrating motion. Solid vibrate at fixed positions, so this is the correct answer. We see that 2 and 4 are the only correct statements, so choose B. For this type of question, analyze all of the statements given because there can be more than one statement that is correct. Let's look at question 2. A cup of hot cocoa was prepared by mixing boiling water with cocoa powder, which correctly describes the particles of water vapor compared to those in the cup. We have that particles in water vapor are gas particles, but particles in the hot cocoa are liquid particles. From our previous videos, we can see that gas particles move faster than liquid particles and are further away from each other. So the correct answer would be B. Third question. A pink crystal is placed inside a beaker with water, which correctly describes the process taking place. The crystal dissolves in water. They do not change states. Although it looks like it turns into a liquid, it is not what is happening. Solid can only turn into liquid when melting occurs. This is also not a chemical process because no new substances are formed. After being dissolved, the tiny solid particles move through liquid and get distributed through diffusion. So the correct answer is D, dissolving and diffusion. Which statement is correct by looking at the diagrams? First one is liquid because the particles are sliding over on each other. Second one is gas because they are spread out and moving in all directions. And third one is solid because no apparent movement is seen and the particles are packed neatly in rows. A says that in state 1, the particles only vibrate around fixed positions, which is wrong because state 1 is a liquid and the description is for solid. So A is wrong. B says that diffusion occurs in the phase change from state 2 to 3. Diffusion does not involve state change, so this is also incorrect. We can eliminate B. C states that the volume of the substance in state 3 is fixed. State 3 is solid, so this is correct. C is the correct answer. Freezing occurs in the phase change from state 3 to 2. 3 is a solid and 2 is a gas, so 3 to 2 must undergo sublimation, not freezing. So 3 is the wrong answer. So for our question 3, the correct answer is B. Last question for this part. In which changes does the distance between particles shorten? Let's look at each option. Number 1, gas to liquid decreases this distance because liquid is denser than gas. Number 2, liquid to solid also makes the particles move closer to each other since solid is denser than liquid. Number 3 and 4 is the reverse processes of 1 and 2, respectively, so they both make the particles further away from each other. So 1 and 2 are the only correct ones. Let's get onto the more hardcore questions. These take more time to figure out, but they only need to be solved by combining everything we have learned in a logical way. The rate of diffusion of two gases, ethane and butane, is measured using the apparatus below. This is a diagram with a syringe, and inside the syringe are two types of gas, ethane and butane. The question asks which gas will diffuse more quickly and why. Let's reflect on diffusion. Diffusion is just the movement of gas from high concentration to low concentration area. A gas moves faster when it is lighter, so we have to determine which gas has the smaller mass. You can write out the mass of each gas like this, or just look at the number of atoms in ethane and butane. Ethane has 2 carbon and 6 hydrogen, while butane has 4 carbon and 10 hydrogen. So of course butane is heavier than ethane. This means that ethane will move faster. So A is the correct answer. Second question deals with a problem similar to the first one but requires more thinking processes. Hydrogen chloride and ammonia are gases which are given off by cotton wool soaked in concentrated solutions and placed at either end of a glass tube as shown. When the gases react together, they produce ammonium chloride, a white solid. Which line on the diagram correctly shows where the ammonium chloride is formed? This is also talking about diffusion. The only difference is that a chemical process also occurs, but that is not so important. Let's look at our diffusion process. First, determine which gas is heavier and which is lighter. NH3 or ammonia weighs 17 grams per mole, while HCl or hydrogen chloride weighs 36.5 grams per mole. So of course HCl is heavier and will diffuse more slowly. The two gases move across the test tube. HCl moves more slowly and NH3 moves faster, so the two substances will meet at a position nearer to where HCl starts to diffuse. B is the midpoint, so A is the only position nearer to hydrogen chloride start point. When the two gases meet up, they react to form ammonium chloride, which is a solid. So the correct answer is A. The third question looks simple, but also requires us to think critically about what we have learned. Which processes increase the distance between particles the most? Melting is solid turning into liquid. Freezing is liquid turning into solid. Vaporizing is liquid turning into gas, and condensation is gas turning into liquid. Although liquid to gas and solid to liquid both increases the distance between particles, we can see that gas particles are much further away from each other. Although liquid particles are loosely bonded, they are still close to each other while gas particles are freely moving and taking up spaces. So vaporizing is the correct answer. A student accidentally left a bottle of hydrogen sulfide open in the corner of a laboratory. After a few minutes, the entire lab smelled of rotten egg. Which process has occurred? Since hydrogen sulfide is already a gas, no state change is observed. Smell is spread out across the room, so diffusion is the correct answer. I haven't made a video about dispersion, but dispersion is different from diffusion because it is the spreading of mass from highly concentrated area to less concentrated areas, while diffusion is talking about the motion of particles. It is microscopic. So the correct answer is diffusion. The last question. A student closed the lid tightly on an empty metal container. She heated the container over a Bunsen burner on a low flame for a few moments and observed the sides and top of the container bend outward slightly. She then turned off the burner and allowed the container to cool. Which statement explains her observations? When temperature increases, the gas particles move faster and collide more frequently with the lid. This leads to more pressure is exerted on the liquid, and the force applied on the lid makes it bend out. Remember, pressure is just force over area. So the correct answer is A. Remember that practice makes perfect. Even if you didn't get all the questions right, read the explanation again and think about why you are wrong and reflect on what you have learned. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in future videos.